Gather round, kiddo. Let me spin you a tale of a spine-tingling encounter that happened to me many moons ago. It was the winter of 1978, and your old grandpa was just a spry lad in his 20s. I was heading to a holiday cabin in the mountains with a few friends, and little did we know, we were about to experience a journey we'd never forget. We set out on a crisp, moonlit evening, the cold air biting at our cheeks as we piled into my friend Jake's rusty old pickup truck. The drive to the cabin was supposed to be a straightforward one, a few hours of winding mountain roads through a dense forest. We were excited, looking forward to a week of skiing and relaxation. As we ventured deeper into the woods, the towering trees seemed to close in around us, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers trying to grab hold of our vehicle. The only source of light was the truck's dim headlights, casting eerie shadows that danced in the periphery of our vision. The radio played an old tune, crackling with static, and the only other sound was the crunch of gravel beneath the tires. We laughed and chatted, our voices echoing strangely in the silent forest. Then, suddenly, the headlights flickered and the engine sputtered before dying completely. The truck came to a shuddering halt, leaving us in near darkness. We exchanged nervous glances, not sure what had just happened. Jake tried to restart the engine, but all we heard was a feeble cough before it fell silent again. With no other choice, we decided to get out and check the engine. We grabbed flashlights from the glove compartment and ventured into the cold night. The forest felt eerier than ever, with shadows seemingly moving just beyond the reach of our beams. As we lifted the truck's hood, we couldn't find anything obviously wrong. It was as if the engine had simply given up the ghost. Frustration and unease began to set in. We were miles from civilization with no cell phones to call for help. We decided to try and walk back to the nearest town to get assistance. With flashlights in hand, we made our way back down the road, retracing our steps. The woods seemed to grow even darker and strange noises surrounded us. Twigs snapped underfoot, leaves rustled, and we couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. We quickened our pace, trying to put distance between us and whatever unseen presence lurked in the trees. As we walked, we suddenly heard a chilling sound, a faint, distant whispering. It was as if the wind itself carried sinister secrets, words we couldn't quite make out. Panic began to rise within us, and we knew we had to keep moving. Hours passed, or at least it felt that way when we finally stumbled upon a small, run-down cabin deep in the forest. It stood there, solitary and foreboding, a single light burning dimly in one of the windows. Desperate for help, we cautiously approached the cabin and knocked on the door. There was no answer, but the door creaked open ominously as if inviting us inside. Reluctantly, we entered, finding ourselves in a dimly lit living room, decorated with faded pictures and antique furniture. The air was heavy with an oppressive atmosphere, and the whispering we had heard in the woods grew louder, filling the cabin. We followed the sound, which led us to a narrow staircase. Climbing it, we reached the top floor, where we discovered a room shrouded in darkness. As we entered, the room seemed to come alive with shadows. The whispering was deafening now, and we could finally make out words, chilling and incomprehensible. Panic overcame us, and we tried to flee, but the door slammed shut, trapping us inside. In the feeble light, we saw the room was filled with ancient books, bizarre symbols, and strange artifacts. It was a room of unspeakable horrors, and we were its unwilling prisoners. The whispering grew louder, almost deafening, and the shadows began to take shape, contorting into grotesque figures. I can't find the words to describe the terror that enveloped us as those malevolent entities closed in. We were trapped, surrounded by an otherworldly presence, and there was no way out. Time seemed to blur, and our screams were drowned out by the relentless, maddening whispers. It felt like an eternity passed before we were finally released from that nightmarish room, stumbling out of the cabin, back into the cold, moonlit forest. We didn't look back, didn't dare to. We ran until our legs could carry us no further. Eventually, we found our way back to the road, and a kind stranger gave us a ride to the nearest town. The rest of the holiday was a blur, and we never spoke of what happened in that cabin to anyone. To this day, I can't explain the horrors we witnessed, But one thing is for certain, there are forces in this world that defy explanation, lurking in the shadows, waiting to ensnare the unwary. So, my dear, be careful when you venture into the unknown, and always keep your wits about you.